In the 1970s, a group of researchers was assigned a simple task. Imagine you work for the KGB and you need to create a perfect surveillance system without creeping people out. And this is what I came up with. They predicted a widespread adoption of debit cards would be the best surveillance system within the constraint of not being obtrusive. And they were right. With a debit card, you're not thinking about surveillance. It's been sold to you as a convenient payment method, and yet it maintains a detailed record of your purchases with a precise location and time. This data can be sold and marketed by your provider, retailers, and payment processors, or be collected by a 3-letter government agency just in case they need to look at what you're shopping, reveals about your personality. You know, for national security purposes. The surveillance capability of debit cards diminishes the anonymity of cash payments. This makes it easier for the government to collect taxes and eliminate black markets that heavily rely on cash precisely for its untraceability. But the success of such surveillance is only viable when anonymous options are no longer available. We will soon approach that reality as we are being transformed into a cashless society. An average pack of cigarettes in Australia costs about 40 Australian dollars. That's due to Australia's heavy tax on tobacco products, which is the highest in the world. But such high taxes incentivized unintended behavior. Australia struggles with a huge black market for smuggling cigarettes, and there is a crime epidemic of stealing products from tobacco warehouses. The result is a massive tax evasion and organized crime, which the Australian government decided to deal with by cracking down on cash. It is now illegal to make or accept a payment or series of connected payments in cash in excess of 10,000 Australian dollars. Some are floating proposals to do away with the Australia's two highest denominations, the $100 and the $50 bills. The goal is to squeeze the Jews out of the black market and starve out their businesses. Limiting cash payments and banning high-value banknotes is becoming a global trend. In France, the cap on cash transactions is only 1,000 euros, and in Italy, it's at 2,999.99. The European Central Bank has recently stopped issuing 500 euro notes, although they will remain accepted as a legal tender indefinitely. To put it in perspective, this little European project of replacing 500 euro banknotes is actually going to require covering 300 billion euros in circulation, and it will cost 600 million euros. In some countries, the war on cash gets much more brutal. India's Prime Minister Modi banned the use of 500 and 1000 rupee notes basically overnight, giving Indians 50-day grace period to return their notes. 1000 rupees may sound like much, but it only amounts to roughly $14. This was a catastrophic blow to the Indian economy and poor working people that relied on cash to receive wages and pay rents. The country's economic growth slowed down by 17%, and Indian cities suffered from a massive exodus of up to 60% of migrant workers who fled the cities because there was not enough cash in circulation to replace the two highest denominations and pay their wages. Poor working people suffered the most from the Modi's plan, but his support was rock solid because he framed it as a strike against the corrupt elites in India. In fact, in all cases of eliminating high-value notes or posing caps on cash transactions, black markets and crime is always quoted as the main reason. However, a recent study conducted in the UK focusing on money laundering and terrorist financing revealed that regulated banks and accounting firms were the two biggest facilitators of illegal transfers and funding. Although cash ranked the third, banks were almost twice as likely to be involved in money laundering than cash. So as Elaine Owen from Bloomberg said, if illegal transactions are the reasoning for banning cash, then it only makes sense to ban banks and accounting firms first. It seems that living in a cashless society would be convenient for many, but an ordeal for others. Homeless people, charity workers, small retailers, cab drivers, or casual workers getting paid in cash would suffer the most in a world with no physical currency. But there is a country closer to being a cashless society than any other country in the world, and it's proving everyone wrong: Sweden. In Sweden, no high street bank in big cities handles cash anymore, with 85% of the population banking online. Even paying for a coffee or a bus transfer requires mobile or card payment. Cash is so uncommon in Sweden that even homeless people carry credit card readers that are supplied to them by charity organizations. Donating to a church or splitting a restaurant check among friends that used to be a domain of cash is now a matter of using inter-person payment apps. Going cashless is certainly going to have its benefits. Payments will be fast and convenient, theft will be basically non-existent, and tax collection will be easier and fairer. In the US, people without a bank account spend 5 to 9 minutes longer to get cash than average Americans. Theft of cash alone costs businesses $40 billion a year, which is more than credit card fraud, refund fraud, internet fraud, and bad checks combined. Credit card fraud results in $16 billion in losses, affecting 15.4 million Americans, although this number is rapidly increasing year by year. Tax evasion is a huge problem in the United States. The IRS estimates an average tax gap between 2008 and 2010 to be $458 billion. This is the amount of tax revenue the IRS expected to be collected, but was not even reported. How much of this revenue is black market or financing illegal activities is unclear, but much of the tax evasion happens in plain sight. Recent investigations show that in total $2.6 trillion in profits is held offshore by the US Fortune 500 companies. This is achieved by abusing loopholes in foreign countries. 4 jurisdictions, Bermuda, Ireland, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands, account for 63% of all profits from American multinational companies. Between 2008 and 2015, Apple earned $305 billion in revenue and paid only 5.8% in foreign tax and returned nothing in the US taxes. They were able to do this not by hiding their earnings in cash, but by shifting their profits through 3 Irish subsidiaries that are structured so that they are not residents of neither Ireland nor the United States, because for tax purposes they are under foreign control. Living in a cashless society will represent a major change in economic dynamics. People will no longer have custody of their money. All that will be left for them is a mere claim that a number on their account balance belongs to them. But this claim only means as much as it can be enforced. During the Greece debt crisis in 2015, banks imposed a nationwide limit on cash withdrawals to 60 euros a day, essentially preventing people from accessing their savings in the name of protecting national economy. The capital controls that also prohibited foreign transfers were only lifted 3 years later. Cashless society will grant banks and card companies unaccountable and unchecked control over people's finances. There will be no choice but to accept their service on their terms. The effects will spill over into social and political realms, as payment providers already ban their customers for speech or political positions. The existence of cash made it difficult for central banks to enforce monetary policies. During the Eurozone crisis, the European Central Bank resorted to charging negative interest rates on savings and deposits in order to discourage saving and boost spending. In theory, this strategy of quantitative easing didn't bring the desired results. When people started to lose interest on their life savings, it only incentivized them to spend less and save even more. People who wanted to avoid being charged for their savings could simply store their savings as cash in a safe. In a cashless society, this scenario would not be an option, and central banks would always have an ultimate say over people's funds. Making all transactions electronically creates troves of data that can be used to track individual purchases or even macro-engineer economic behavior of an entire nation. Data is one of the most sought-after commodities in the world, and digital payments allow companies to track real identities and build profiles of shopping habits. For regular people, this will mean they will no longer be allowed to buy drugs, visit a pub, or buy a book anonymously. Gradually, we are being nudged into a cashless society. Banks are making it more inconvenient to use cash by closing down their branches or limiting cash withdrawals at counters and ATMs. In 2017, Visa ran a campaign where it wanted to reward $10,000 to 50 US-based businesses who go completely cashless. The resistance to cashless society is not all that futile. Germany is the leader of stubbornly holding on to cash. 80% of point-of-sale transactions are made in cash, and an average German carries over 100 euros in their wallet. Big supermarket chains only began introducing card payments in 2015, and tens of thousands of restaurants and shops are still cash only. Most Germans view cash as a means of freedom from government control and a way of preserving privacy and anonymity, which they are refusing to give up. Whether cashless society is an inevitable future still depends on the people's willingness to adopt it. Countries like Germany prove that a culture can defeat powerful interests of big corporations, governments, and central banks. The key ingredient is to value freedom and privacy more than convenience and security.